Welcome everyone. In the last episode, we added a view model and we're using it to show the selected tile and the selected entity. And this is not where I want to run. I just want to run in the simulator for now. So let's try and build and run again and see where we left off last time. Okay, so let's see. So we can click on a tile and then the selected tile is shown. And we can click on a tile with an entity, and then we also see the name of the selected entity, and the click to walk also still works. So that's where we left off. Today I want to start building a more robust user interface where when you select an entity, a menu pops up that lets you select what you want to do. So perhaps you want to move, perhaps you want to do something else, and I want to get rid of this direct click to move behavior. So what I have in mind is something like this. So the first step will be to select a unit, basically select an entity, and then you can choose an action like move or attack, and this will create a sort of dummy or placeholder action on the view model. Then I want to show the reachable tiles. For now, we'll assume that every tile is reachable, but basically I want to give visual feedback to the player where an action can reach, whether it's an attack or movement or something else. And then the player should select one of the reachable tiles. That will update the action in the view model to also contain a target location. And then I don't want to immediately execute the action. I want to have the player actively commit the action. Okay, so this is the correct action I want to do. I'll click the button and then the action gets assigned to the selected unit. We'll call redraw and then the action will be performed on screen as well. So let's get started. And I think it's probably most appropriate to start by creating a sort of mock-up of the menu we want to use when you select an entity. So let's create a new file. In this case, a Swift UI view. We'll call it an entity view. And this one will observe the view model. And this one will also have a more direct link or a shortcut to get the selected entity in the view model. Let's see, so we'll have the view model. Oh, we forgot a letter there. Selected entity, and this one should always be selected when you have this view on screen, but just to be safe, I'll create a default one or a placeholder. If for some reason it's not at some random location. This way we can at least also show it in the preview. So if I go here, I can say, okay, I'll have created a new view model with an empty map and empty entities, but then at least I think our preview should work. The previews are always a bit, well, I guess they're easily confused. But okay, let's start. So, what do I want to have this view look like? Let's create a VStack that contains at least the entity's name. So we'll use the sprite for now. This one should be quite big, so we'll create a headline and we'll give it a foreground color of white because the background will be dark. I think we can switch, should be able to switch somewhere. Well, we'll look into that in a bit. Then I assume we will have something about hit points. It's not something we have already, but I just want to show it, mock it up on screen a bit. This can be a sub-headline and should also be, let's make the HP red. And let's say we also have something like MP, but MP will be blue. And let's continue. At the end of the V stack, let's add some padding. And let's give it a background color. And this way we can also see the placeholder. And let's give it a clip shape of a rounded rectangle with a corner size of width of 20 and a height of 20 as well. So we have a nice rounded rectangle here. And now let's look at the actual stuff we want to show. I would like to do something like here of the type if viewModel.currentAction is nil, so no current action has been selected, then I want to show an H tag. Put this one up first, where we have a button called move, and then something happens. Let's just reprint move selected. And we could also have a button like attack. And we could have a button called face. That's the direction you look at. And let's give these some more useful button styles. Let's make them prominent. Bordered prominent button style. Quite a mouthful. And why? Oh, this is a button shape. This is a button style instead of a shape. See if this works. Okay, so this starts looking sort of like a menu. However, this one will always show currently, and I only want to do it when the view model is not having a current action. But I don't think we have the current action in the view model yet. So let's first go add that, and let's go to our view model tests. And let's work on some tests that help build up actions. So let's see, what do we want to do first? I think we should first make sure that we have a current action in the view model, and we can do that from the combined tests by testing test current action publishes change and current action is changed. So we'll need an entity. Add some position. We need a view model. In some map where we have this entity available. Then we should register for changes in a view model. And we should have a selected entity. And we should have a current action. And that's a dummy action for now. Then we should assert that are received actions. We need to add that one. That is not nil, but the last one is indeed a dummy action. Okay, so we have a couple of problems. Of course, we don't have a received action, so let's add that one first. So we have received actions, that is an array of optional actions, and we should also register for that one. And again, we need to store this one in cancellables. Now we get an error that the view model doesn't have a selected action, so let's fix that one as well. Let's open a second editor for view model and add a published variable current action. And now this error should go away if, of course, our spelling is correct. And now this test should at least compile, and it should also pass. Okay, let's continue. We can also run all the tests to see that nothing broke. Okay, let's go to our content view and see, get rid of this one and see if we can run this. So we haven't yet changed the content view to include the entity. So let's the entity view. So let's do that. So right after our v stack, we'll create an h stack that first has a space. So this way we can align stuff to the right. If our view model selected entity is not nil, then we can create an entity view passing in our view model. So let's see. Now if we select an entity, we can see the one that we clicked on, and we can click on the buttons, and these print out the messages. Okay, so let's go to the next step, and let's make it so that we can set current actions. So let's go to entity view, and if our move is selected, we take our view model, we set our current action to a move action for the entity that owns it, and the path can be empty. And let's see what happens. And there is no real change yet also, but I want to quickly get rid of that click to move stuff. So for now, we can simply comment out this stuff. This way we can just click entities and have them selected. So let's do this one. Let's click on move. We have move selected, and that's it. We can't see anything else. However, in our entity view, if we create an if statement that says if our view model current action is nil, and then show all this stuff, then only if nothing is, no current action is set, will we show the entity. So if we choose this one and click move, now that part goes away. But of course, we don't have any visual feedback yet that we actually changed, that we should choose somewhere to click for our entity to move to. So we should start building up the actual actions. And let's go back to our tests and for the view model and create a place where we're building up actions. So we'll first have a tile test that says when you click a tile, it does not change the selected entity when the current action is not nil. And we want this behavior to prevent if you click somewhere, or this one, if you click somewhere and you click somewhere else, we lose the selected entity, and that's in that way we can't construct an action for the unit anymore because we don't know it's a selected one. So when you have a selected entity and you have a current action that you're building up, I don't want to change selected entity if you click a tile without some other tile. So let's create a test that contains some random entities. They can have whatever name, and they can have a nice position. And then we have a view model that's based on the example map and all these entities. Then we take one of these entities as a random entity. And we make this the selected entity. And we create a current action. That can be a dummy action. And then we choose a coordinate to click for one of the other entities. And we'll take out the one that is the random entity that's been selected, otherwise the test doesn't mean anything. And again, we need a random element, and we take its position. Then we say view model click tile at this coordinate, and now we can start asserting stuff. We assert that the view model's selected tile is set to the coordinates, but we also assert that the view model's selected entity is still our random entity. Let's run this test. Now, this test fails because we still change the selected entity. So let's go into our view model, and in our click tile function, we can get rid of the always change the selected entity. we will change the selected tile, but if we have a current action, then we don't change the selected entity, otherwise we can then we set the selected entity to nil. But if it's somehow clicked on a place that also has an entity on it, then we can set the selected entity to that place. So let's run the test again. And now the test succeeded. So let's go continue. So this will help. The next thing we want to check is that if you set the current, if the current action is set, then if you click a tile, we should update the current action, as in choosing the target for the current action. So let's create a test where click tile sets current action and that's the current action when tile clicked. So we'll take an entity at, for instance, position 0. We need a view model. It takes in our example map and this entity. We set the current action for the view model. We need an action that actually has a target location. So let's create a dummy action with a coordinate. It conforms to action. So this needs a static function make in map or entity targeting vector 3D, and this returns a dummy action with coordinates. And this creates just a dummy action with coordinates that also has a vector 3D as a target. Okay, so we can create a dummy action for now targeting the 0 location. Then we create a coordinate, for instance 1, 2, 3. We click this coordinate and then we make sure that our current action is the view model's current action. This becomes now a throwing function, and we assert that the current action as a dummy action with a coordinate dot target is equal to our coordinate, so that the coordinate we passed into click tile gets propagated into the current action. So let's run the test. And the test fails. Let's go into our view model because we're never changing the current action. So we should go into our click tile function, and here we need to make sure that if we have a selected tile and we have a selected entity, then we can create an action of the type of the current action that we already have. And then we can call make. In a map for selected entity, targeting selected tile. Oh, and this can only work if we make sure we get the current action. Then we should be able to call make here. Let's see, current action is of type action. Okay. And the action always has, oh, it doesn't yet have the make requirement. Okay, let's make sure we have that one then. We should be able to construct actions, and we'll do so by having a requirement that they always have a static function make that takes a map or an entity that will be the owner or the entity executing the action, and that takes a target and that returns an optional of its type. Then these no longer conform, so they need to conform to the protocol. This one can just create a dummy action, and this one will have a slightly more complex one, but for now we'll just use a static one that just creates a move action for the entity passed in with an empty path. I just want this stuff to compile for now. So let's go back to our view model. Now it should be able to call make in our map for the selected entity, targeting the selected tile. And then we can set current action to the action. So let's see if this helps our test. Let's see. Oh, the block action now also needs a make function. Okay, this can be mostly empty for now. Let's run the tests. And the test fails. Let's see which one. We call it. Okay, let's see what's going on here. Are we also setting the current entity correct? I think we forgot to set our view model's current selected entity to the entity. Let's try again. And now this test passes. So let's see how we can use this in our content view and our entity view. So we have an entity view. Let's see. So we have our move selected. Then we can go into, then in terms of here, we have chosen a function, then we should show the reachable tiles. So let's see in our game scene how we can do this. So where it we work on the colors, we check the paths. We can add another else if our view model dot current action is not nil, then for now we assume all tiles will be pink. So basically when we're targeting, we should set show them all as pink. Let's see how that looks. Okay, so let's move. Every tile is how do you say, pink? But of course we can't leave this mode yet. And also you might have noticed that when running, I click move. I don't immediately get everything in pink only once I click one of the tiles. And the reason is this triggers a redraw, and we need to trigger a redraw when we set the action. So we, in our entity view, we should be able to do something like trigger a redraw for a game scene. So you might want to do something like game scene dot redraw. However, we don't have a reference to the game scene here, and I also don't want to have one directly from the view model. What I want to do is have a view model dot redraw function that I can call, and that takes care of actually redrawing. So that means that we need to add that behavior, and we can do that by saying view model should have a variable called redraw, and that's a function, and this one will be an optional, so one might be set or might not be set. And then in our in our entity view, we can call view model dot redraw. Let's see, view model. We should have a variable here right now. So why is this complaining? Right, so the function itself is optional, not the view model variable is optional. Okay, so we can call redraw, and in our game scene we need to make sure that where we're setting up our game scene in our did move function, that we also make sure that we set our view model redraw function to this one's redraw function. So let's try again. Let's build a run. So I just choose one, I choose move, and now immediately everything becomes pink. But if I click something, it stays pink because stuff doesn't change. So the next step is to solve this. And how are we going to do that? Well, in our content view, let's see where we are in terms of steps. So we have to show reachable tiles. We have select one of the reachable tiles, and this updates the action in view model. We should commit the action. And we can do that by adding to our content view a button. that if we have a current action, create a button that says execute current action. We can print out some stuff. Well, let's start with printing out execute current action. Let's go from there and see what that does. And now if I have move, I get a button here that just shows this. If I click on this stuff, let's see. Yeah, we're not updating the action yet, so let's make sure we do that first. I'm sorry that this is going a bit to and fro, but I guess that's also what development is like. You have a sort of plan, and you're basically filling in one of the missing pieces right after the other one. So let's go into our action tests. So we have a move action here, and let's create a new test that says func test move action make is based on pathfinding. So we already have a make function, but it doesn't take pathfinding into account. So we need an entity. Add a start position. We need to have a target position. And we need to have an expected path. And the expected path will be a vector, an array of vector 3Ds. We'll start it. First step will be 0, 0, 1. 0, 1 and 1, 1. Then we should create an action. Here we need a map. We'll create an example map in a bit for the entity targeting our example map, convert to 3D target position. And then we should assert that our action.path is the same as the expected path. So now we still need an example map. So let's create one. Based on a height map. And this one I'll just copy paste in just a moment. So now we have an example map, and we should have a test that we can now, there's a comma here, that we can now run. And the test fails because we haven't changed our action yet. So let's go into our move actions make function and make sure that we, instead of just creating one, we first create a Dijkstramap targeting the entity's current position. Then we create a path to our target position using the Dijkstramap, and we convert these to 3D coordinates, and then return a move action that actually contains the owner, that's our entity, and the path that we calculated. And let's run the test again. Okay, test passes. Let's see what this does for our game so far. So let's choose move. So we have the prototype action or the dummy action. We click somewhere and now the path is passed in. Okay, so this looks of course terrible as paths become longer, but that is something we'll fix. Next, I first want to get this functionality working. So I think the final step is actually committing the action. We're showing the action now in our content view right here. And also we should make this a bit easier to read. So we can use the bordered prominent button style here as well. That will look a bit better. What we need to do is we'll need to be able to commit the action. So let's go into our view model. And let's see, here are a view model tests. And what I want to do is I want to have a function called, or a test called commit action. That's the function that we're going to use. Sets the selected entity's current action. So basically, when you click commit action, the selected entity gets its action set. So we need an entity. At some position. And it will have a current action that's nothing. Then we need a view model that has an example map and has the entity in it. The view model's current action will be a dummy action. And the view model's selected entity will be the entity. Then I want to call a function called viewModel.commit action. We need to create that one. And after that, we should have the current action set at the entity. And we should be able to assert that that one is indeed a dummy action. Oh. This now becomes a throwing function, and we need to create a commit action function. So let's go into our view model. And let's create a function. Rid of this stuff. So this can be a stop. So now at least this thing should compile, and we should be able to run the test. And now we need to make sure that we're actually doing something. So we can set the entity, or the selected entity should be, dot current action should be our current action. Let's build and run the test. Okay, so now the test passes. So the second thing I want to do is when you commit the action, the current action in the view model should be set to nil, because that frees it up for use for next action. So we create a test commit action, sets current action to nil. We can reuse some of the stuff here. This one is no longer needed. And we commit the action, and then we can assert that the view model's current action is now nil. So let's run the test. The test fails, of course, because we're never setting it to nil. So our own current action we can set to nil. So let's again run the test. And the final one I want to have is that commit action triggers a redraw. So we can see the effects of setting the action to the entity in the screen. So we can do that by creating a counter. We can create a view model. It can have an example map. Doesn't need any entities. We set the view model.redraw function to be an increment of the counter. We call commit action, and then we assert that the counter is 1. So it is a counter. Let's run the test. The test fails. However, if we here also call redraw, let's run the test. It now passes. Very cool. What does this do for our game? So if we go into our content view, oh, can get rid of this one. We execute the current action. We can do view model.commit action. Let's run. So we can select something. We can choose a move function. We can choose a location. So we now have an action that has a path in it. We can click it and look at them go. Awesome. We can do the same for one of the other ones. So we can move. We can choose a location. We get this ridiculous button, but we're going to fix that in the next episode by making this look a lot better. But okay, this is what it is for now. We can issue another command. Okay. And I think that's it for now. So next time I want to make the buttons look better for committing the action. That will be the main task, and after that, that's probably a short episode. After that, I want to look at reachable tiles and making sure that you can't move any place on the map, but only within a certain range. But that's it for today. Thanks for watching and have a good day.